Hi friends, I'm here in the garden today. So April we had some gorgeous weather. It actually felt like summer. I had to use the AC in my car. And it's kind of been a flip-flop. So May has been a little bit chillier. We've had more spring-like weather in May than we did in April. And we've had some showers, which were much needed. So April was quite dry. So it's nice to get this rain now and just have the plants have a nice drink because it was so dry. I actually had to water. So that was kind of nice to have that rain break. And this year I made a decision not to spend money or not to spend too much money on plants and to put that money kind of into our lawn instead. So we had a lot of moss come into our lawn over the years and we have quite a wet climate. So I don't really mind the moss. It's actually quite pleasant. It's very green, it's very soft underfoot. It gets quite spongy. And we happen to have a bunch of moss out product. So we used all the moss out product, which turned the moss basically black in the lawn. And then of course it has to be removed. So I invested in hiring a lawn company to come and dethatch our lawn, which hadn't been done in, oh God knows how many years. So the lawn was dethatched, which ended up removing quite a bit of that dead moss. And then the gentleman actually aerated, which puts little holes all over your lawn, which allows kind of oxygen and moisture to get down into the roots of the plants, the grass plants, which is great. And after he aerated, he added some new top seed. So I believe that's just called top seeding. And he spread grass seed all over, and hopefully some of that got into those holes for aeration, and that grass seed hopefully will grow and kind of replace where the moss was. That's the plan anyways. And today we finally had some sunshine. So I ended up, weakening in my resolve, and I did buy a few plants. So I bought some ferns, which are the Proven Winners Crested Surf ferns. And I bought 3 of those. I ended up buying some Heuchera, dressed up prom dress, I believe it's called. It's a very dark color with a kind of a pewter overlay. It's very beautiful. It's a dark colored Heuchera. And today I came across an Ogon grass, which I have one already, and I've been keeping my eye out to see if I could get a good deal on one. And I found one today on clearance at Home Depot for $3, which was quite a find. There was only one and I grabbed it. So I'm hoping to get those all planted today, and I will show you the plants and where I think I'm going to put them, and we'll go from there. So here's my first grass. This is Ogon, Acorus. Let me show you the tag here so you can see the name. So you can see it's an ornamental grass, and it's called Acorus Ogon. And I already have one of these, and you can see it was marked down from $9 to $5, and then I got it for $3 because it was marked down again. And there's nothing wrong with this grass. You can see it has this beautiful green foliage with a yellow stripe on it. It's just that it has like a few leaves that are kind of past their prime, and maybe some spotting, some dark marks. You can see here. Nothing really wrong with the plant, like nothing that's gonna be permanent. So, you could either just cut that back. I'm not even gonna bother because I just think it looks fine. And I have a shade garden where I have one plant, but I definitely need to add more of these. So, even though it says full sun on this tag, I find these tags are really just very generic. They're very unreliable. So I wouldn't rely on these tags at all. And I would just, find the variety and Google that for the care instructions. So this here is my kind of part shade bed here, and it's quite wet. It's quite a damp area. So it's already got quite a bit of plants, quite a lot of plants in it. But you can see kind of from this corner, this is where the water kind of ends up collecting anytime there's rain or anything. So you can see how moist it does get. There's quite a bit of runoff. We're at the end of a little slope here. So this garden bed, I kind of planted it to kind of catch some of that water rather than having it run off the property. It's kind of, in a way, in a sense, a bit of a rain garden in the sense that it captures all the runoff from this slope and some from this retaining wall. And hopefully the plants, absorb a lot of that water rather than it ending up in the drain. So you can see I have pulmonaria in this bed right here. Last year I added hellebores in this shady side because that is where, you know, it gets more shade. I added this clematis, which is doing amazing, which I was a bit worried wouldn't get enough sun, but apparently it's doing quite well. And then this here in this corner is where I have my other specimen of this Acorus Ogon grass. And I placed that there because it is a shady, dark kind of corner, and it's quite a like a highlighter in a way. And I also added Stonecrop Angelina here to add kind of that bright color, that chartreusey color, to kind of add a pop in this dark kind of shady corner. So I'm gonna see where I'm gonna place this. I'm thinking I don't want to put it too close to the other one, but also not too far. I split a bunch of my hostas and I've put them in here, and they're all popping up now and doing great, but I don't want to have my grass kind of overshadowed by them. So that's something that I will figure out where to put this shortly. But you can see this grass, it's handling all the moisture like a champ, no issues. It's kind of like almost a fan-like, that's how they seem to be coming in the pots. But yeah, it looks great. And while I'm here, so this is the fern that I purchased on clearance as well. It was $5, about half price. And this one is the Proven Winners variety. You can see it's kind of known for having a split tip at the end. Here's a good example. So this is kind of the Proven Winners variety that makes it different from other ferns, is that the tips are split. That's not really something I noticed too much. I more bought it for the color, the fact that it's like this silvery, beautiful foliage, and it has these purple kind of stems and purple new growth. I just think it's such a beautiful fern. And let me see. Oh yeah, so it's more than half off. So this Crested Surf, it was $13.48, and it's actually, I got it for $5, and I got 3 of them. So I wanted to kind of add those to add that kind of contrast, bright color, just to light it up. And I think I'm going to place that one there. So I'll show you my last clearance plant that I bought, which is the Dressed Up Prom Dress Heuchera. So here are my Dressed Up Prom Dress Heuchera. You can see that's kind of the picture there when it's in like a more of a mature size. It's a perennial. It takes sun or shade. And you can see here it is 8 to 10 inches in terms of height, and you space it 16 to 18 inches apart. It's a perennial in zones 4 to 9, so quite hardy. And you can see it says that the leaves are pewter and heavily ruffled, accented with dark charcoal veins. And it lasts through autumn. For me, they're actually evergreen. And it says it thrives in part shade, but will grow in sun or shade. So it's quite versatile. And you need well-drained soil. And you can just trim back the tattered foliage in spring. It is salt tolerant, which means that you can plant it actually like close to a road or a sidewalk or along the driveway. It won't get damaged if you have to salt in winter. And I just think it's so beautiful. I've noticed that in my garden, the light colored heucheras do not do as well. Like I have some peachberry ice that barely came back, but the darker ones seem to do quite well. I have a mahogany monster, those ones do really great. I have black pearl, those ones do really great. So I thought I would try this new variety. It's new to me anyways. I think it's fairly relatively new in the line. And I noticed I actually have quite a few new ones. So there's a heuchera for every taste. And this one is Dressed Up Prom Dress. I have one heuchera already planted back here, and that one I believe is a silver gumdrop, which is another one of my varieties that I just love. And you can see it's smaller, it's come back. This is after the rain, it's quite moist here. And yeah, I have 3 of these that I bought. So I've already placed one, and these 2 I've just put in here temporarily while I decide where I want to plant these. And I got this for $3 each, so quite a steal. And I think the reason I got it for such a good deal is because it's in these eco pots, these eco quartz, and these are very fragile. Like this is originally $10, I got it for $3, but the pots are just falling apart. Like, they're just horrible. Like, some of them have already disintegrated, and I have to be very careful because the plant will just fall out of them. So I don't like these eco pots. I understand, like, they're better for the environment, but they're just a pain to deal with. They just disintegrate so easily. Maybe that's more so in my wet climate, but not a fan. And the actual plastic pots, I just recycle them in any event, so I don't feel like I'm really, you know, doing much more for the environment by taking these eco pots. So I have two here that I will need to plant. I haven't decided where to put them, but there is one that I have planted, so I'm going to show you where I put that. So excuse my shadow here, but let me see if I can show you. So this is one that I've already planted, and I kind of just put it at the end of my hydrangea lane garden bed here as just like a, just at the end, just to add a pop of dark foliage here. And this will get part sun, so I think it will do really well here, and I'm hoping it will kind of get big and fill out and have nice blooms and just be like kind of a little bit of an anchor piece here. So back in my shade garden bed here, so here is one of the ferns is back there, the one that I was showing you guys earlier. Here's my other one, which I'm thinking of placing there. And here is the third one, which the eco pot kind of cracked and just fell apart on me. So that's an example of why I don't like those eco pots, is because it just kind of dissolved. And yeah, luckily we've had rain, so the roots didn't dry out. But yeah, it's very important I get these in the ground sooner rather than later. And with the weather being as it is, it's a perfect time to plant these. So I'm gonna get these ferns into the ground as well as my grass in this garden bed here. And I think I'm not gonna put my heuchera here because you can see I have quite a bit of this dark burgundy foliage already with my penstemon. This is onyx and pearls. It self-seeds quite readily and I love it. It's very great plant. So I don't think I need any more purple foliage in here. So I'm just gonna focus on getting the grass and the ferns in this bed. So I've decided to put my Acorus Ogon grass next to this dwarf Alberta spruce. I think it's a great spot to put it because this area is empty and it just kind of highlights this green very well. And you can see that it did rain earlier today and all day yesterday, so you can see this is quite a moist area. It's not the best well draining, and these plants, like, because they like to be at the edge of ponds, I think it'll do really well here. So I think that'll be a good spot. And the other reason I picked this spot is because this one I can't see from the windows because it's hidden by this Alberta spruce. And this one we'll be able to see it. It'll be visible from the windows. So that'll be nice to have that bright pop of color because these are evergreen for me. So it'll be nice to see that kind of in winter. So I've tipped this out of its pot just to see the roots, and the roots look quite healthy. They're all white and it's not root bound or anything, so it looks good. I'm gonna plant it a little bit high just because this is at the end kind of a slope. So I'll plant it a little bit high and then we'll see how it looks. All right, so I've got everything planted. So I'll start with just around this corner. This here is a bobo hydrangea. This here is an opal pulmonaria or lungwort. And I decided to put my fern right behind here. So this is kind of a very shady area. It just gets a little bit of sun. And I figured that would be a nice contrast there because I already have the purple from this penstemon. I have that chartreusey color edging that hosta. And this is a bright green, so I think that'll be a really nice color. The pulmonaria I've just cut back, but I think, you know, where that leaves off, this fern will pick up. And I'm hoping the fern will do well there. It's a little bit touch and go in this bed. And let's see, the other fern I've put back here next to my Ogon Acorus. So I've kind of put those two new plants together. I had a spot in here where I've like removed a plant last year, so I had a gap there. And I really like how that Ogon and this Ogon are almost not symmetrical, but, you know, kind of flanking this dwarf Alberta spruce. And that's a color of this fern which is kind of lacking there. So we have the green, we have the green of the Alberta spruce behind there. This is a hydrangea that I transplanted that had kind of reseeded itself. It's one of the endless summer ones, I believe. So this area does get more sun than the other side. But we have the purple, we have the green, we have the yellow, and I just thought the silvery foliage would look good there. Also, I thought it would be interesting to kind of see the contrast. This side gets a little bit more sun than this one, so to see how they fare. I should mention, I actually do have a fern in here from either last year or the year before. You can see it's coming back right here, but it is quite small. So hopefully that's an indicator of how these ones will do. But you know, this is just spring and we have a lot of time for these roots to get established. So I'm hoping they will come back strong in the coming years. So that's where my grass went. I think it looks great there. I just love that color. And I always keep an eye out for this grass, and if I can get more on a good deal, I definitely will pick some up. Now turning over to this side, you can see where I've placed my last fern of the 3. So I had to kind of dig this area out a little bit because the water does tend to go on the sidewalk, which I don't want, but it also is a little bit raised, so it's a little bit tricky. But I did try to plant it a little bit high. This is a very moist area. And I have a pulmonaria here that I planted last year. It's remained small, it hasn't grown very much. So I think it's because the soil is not very good here. So I'm thinking this fern will probably also stay small. And also my grass there has stayed relatively small. So I figure I'm not overcrowding it, because I do have a tendency to overcrowd plants when I plant them and not take into account their full size. But I think this will work out well. So that's that. These hostas are in here for the first time this year because I did split them and kind of added them last year. So I'm not sure what their kind of full size what they're gonna end up being. So I wanted to leave space around them just to make sure they have enough room. So that's why I didn't end up planting where I had originally had my fern. And lastly, I also needed to have, I realized, areas to step. So I need stepping, kind of a path to step between the plants, just in order to kind of access back here and like to tend to weeding, to mulching, and things like that. So that's another reason I didn't want to like kind of put the fern in certain areas. Here it's quite easy to step over and have a step here and along that path, which is very important. So overall, I'm kind of happy with how things are looking. There's quite a lot of plants in here, and you know, I have an astilbe here that's doing amazing. And this edge here is very tough. I have these chives that self-seeded themselves here, but I love how they look. They're like just these pops of purple. They are edible, but I just keep them for decorative purposes. So they're looking really great. And then this hydrangea is in here for the first time. It is like just an offshoot of another hydrangea that just self-seeded itself. So, or it just like kind of was on the ground and rooted itself, I should say. So this is kind of just a free plant situation. So, you know, even if these ferns don't make it, and even if my grass doesn't make it, I won't be out too much because I did buy them on clearance. So that's one of the great things about clearance plants, is that the ferns were only $5 each and my grass was only $3. So if they don't make it, if these conditions aren't right for these particular plants, then I'm not out a lot. And you know, next year I can try something new. But for now, I'm really loving the pops of yellow in here, that brightness. So very happy with these new plants. And I just have my 2 Heuchera left to plant, which are the dressed up prom dress, and I wasn't sure where to put them. I did plant one of them, and I'm thinking I might put the last 2 in this bed at the back here. I call this kind of a keyhole garden bed. Now it is very full, so that's one thing, is that like I have so much going on in this bed already. But in the back I have mahogany monster, which right now you can't see that well because of the other plants. However, in winter you do see that quite a bit, so that's actually something that's a good evergreen piece for me. But I was thinking of popping my Heuchera like on one side here and on one side here in front of my storm cloud Amsonia, this blue plant. I think that'll be a nice contrast. So let's give that a try and see how that looks. All right, I've got my last two plants in just in time. So you can see I've popped it right in front of my Amsonia, which is a nice different color contrast there. And you can kind of see my mahogany monster peeking out in the back. So you can see like the difference in color. So the mahogany monster is more red, and the evening gown prom dress is more of a deep purple. And I think once it fills out, it'll have more of that silvery overlay. So that's on that side, and I've got the other one over here on this side. So I think it looks good. I think once it just fills out a little bit, it's gonna be a really great addition. And like I said, it is evergreen. So the Amsonia, it does not evergreen. So once that Amsonia is kind of gone, it'll really shine. And I have so much going on in this bed, and I just love it. It is just so chock full. I've got this foxglove. This is Pam's Choice. You can see more foxglove just kind of dotted throughout. These like have self-seeded themselves. I moved some of the seedlings around. So it's just gonna be like a riot of like foxgloves. I've got my peony here that is getting ready to bloom. So you can see we're kind of at the marble stage still, but this one is quite a bit bigger than this one down here, but this one does have a bud. So that one has some catching up to do. Behind there, I have my purple, that is actually a hydrangea. That's called Miss Sayori. So I think once the peony is kind of wrapped up, the hydrangea will kick in. So just loving it. Down here, I've got some banana cream Shasta daisy on both sides. So those usually bloom really nicely. And I have a couple of salvia here. This one is doing better than this one. Some phlox here. I can't quite remember what this plant is here, so it'll be a surprise. I even have some pink cashmere verbena here, which overwintered for me. So that's really nice when you have a plant that you consider an annual overwinter. And then I have my, what is it? Limetta on both sides. And those are kind of my anchor pieces, and they bloom beautifully in the summer. I have a lot of weeding to actually do in this bed, and I should really edge it, but everything is so full, so it's really hard to reach the weeds. But that is something that should be done at some point and edged, but it's just really happy. I just think it's such a beautiful color contrast in here. And then of course my bed in the back underneath my trees, my fruit trees. So I've got a pear tree, cherry tree, apple tree, and a plum tree, and this is like underneath. I've got this gorgeous lilac here, which is just scenting the air. I've got all these beautiful plants under there, which haven't really had any maintenance at all. So they need some weeding as well under there, but I just will have to leave that for another day. You can only do so much at a time. So I think today, like getting those 5 or 6 plants in was, enough for me today. But everything's looking great. These are my lilac trees here, lilacs on standard. They are doing amazing, smell amazing. We've had a bit of wind, so I'm very glad they're staked because they were really moving a lot in the wind, and actually they had much more blossoms, but a lot of these petals were blown off in the wind, and you can see them all over the ground, but they still have a lovely scent. And I should do a garden tour here soon because things are changing so fast in the spring. Here's my Guernsey cream, and my David Austin Gertrude Gico rose has just started to bloom. And of course, these mahogany monsters I put in last year, and they're doing amazing. They're already blooming. So actually these are just rock star plants. Like mahogany monsters seem to take any condition in my garden. Anyways, it's getting dark, so I'm gonna call it, just do some cleanup and wrap it up for today. So very successful day in the garden, and so happy I was able to get out here and get a break from the rain to put in these plants in the ground. I'm trying this year not to have any plants lying around, and my goal is trying not to buy more plants, which is super difficult to do. But it is something that hopefully I will stick to, because I'd rather put some more money into the lawn this year and getting that up to snuff rather than adding more plants, which I don't have much room for, or I have enough ability to kind of take splits. Like for example, this hosta is so massive now, and I think that's only like its second year there, but it's so beautiful and I could easily split that. And I also have all these Alchemilla mollis. Those are ones that I also wanted to take the seedlings of and redistribute over my garden, as well as, you know, the foxglove seedlings. I already moved those around, but you know, there's so much that I can just shop within my garden. So we'll see how that goes. So thank you for joining me, and I hope you're enjoying some time in your garden as well. Bye now.